Hello.
Hello, welcome to the Knit Girls. This is episode 235. It is January 5th, 2015. That's going to take me a little while to get
Yeah.
used to. Just January in general might take me.
By that time, it'll be your birthday month.
My father was like to my nieces who are 3 and 6. He was like, "Do you know?" Because Alice had her birthday in December. That Auntie Lala gets a whole month for her birthday.
Oh,
And they were like, "No, can
that's
we have
just
one for
wrong.
our birthdays?" So that might happen soon.
I'm sure that's exactly what your sister-in-law needs.
I see a dog behind you.
Oh, do you? That's Buffy. Hey, Buff Buff. What you doing, baby? Come here. Yeah, she's not much for hanging out. Well, she is with me, but not with anybody, doesn't live here. Anyway, I'm Leslie, also known as You Don't Call Me Les.
Did I already say I was Laura? Because I'm totally Laura.
I don't know. But Totally Laura is now going to be the name of the show.
Awesome.
It's so much easier when I remember to write this down.
Do you want me to go first with works in progress, or would you like to go first?
It's up to you. Mine are a big old mess either way, so.
Why don't you go first?
Okay.
Because I'm just starting on one.
So I have two works in progress. They are the same works in progress as last week. One has gotten significantly more attention than the other. And by last week, I mean 4 days ago when we recorded. So this is the Lucky Me cardigan. I don't remember who it's by, but I linked it in the show notes.
Oh, look, you have sleeves.
I have one finished sleeve.
Do you have sleeves? You didn't have sleeves before.
I did not have any sleeves before, and then this is about 2/3 done. It is the slog of never-ending sleeves, although they are being knit on 5 millimeter needles, so it is going pretty quick. I haven't knit a ton. I've been watching Gilmore Girls and knitting sleeves. Gilmore Girls and knitting sleeves.
Friends is on Netflix now.
Yeah.
It just came on.
This whole sleeve was the entirety of Lorelai and Luke's relationship. And then it was over. And now we're back on, they're avoiding each other again. So, there's that. I've got to remember to turn that off. I'm sorry. That's tacky. So that is Beaver Slide Dry Goods, which is 90% merino, 10% mohair. It's knitting up very nicely. It does have a slight halo, but that does not bother me at all. And the other is Pumpkin Ale. That is a pattern by Isolde T.
Oh, there was lots of microphone noise there.
Oh, I'm sorry. That is her. She's very pretty and nice and designs nice things. This has not gotten very much love at all. I took it with me when I went to see Gwen this week, and
Fun.
I don't know that I ever knit on it at all while I was there.
Y'all are having fun.
Yeah, she made me nachos, so that was a win. And we went to the Dansko store where you can
Did you buy any?
I bought some plain brown ones I need for work, but they had lots of fun ones, but they're all shiny. All like the fun prints are shiny, and I don't like shiny, so first world problems. So this is Pumpkin Ale. It may be an inch further than it was last week. This is out of Volmiza DK in the Campari Piccolo colorway. It is being knit on 4.0 millimeter needles, US size 6. The yarn is beautiful, and it's working. You hung up on me.
I didn't hang up on you. I didn't do anything.
You totally hung up on me.
Nah. I've moved on.
Clearly. Anyway, now you know what this relationship is really like.
I went to enter something in show notes and
Just screw her. I don't need her. I'll do this by myself.
I was on the Google Docs though. I wasn't even over. Like my mouse is over here, not over here where Skype is. I don't know what.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Seriously.
So, Pumpkin Ale, Isolde T, Volmiza DK, and Campari Piccolo, 4.0 millimeter needles.
I'm scared to type anything.
And that is it. That's all I got this week. Well, I have some frustrations to share later in favorite things, but that's it.
So I am starting a swatch, as you do. And it's not for a sweater, actually. It is for a scudette. So I've had a scudette. I'm showing you right now.
Oh, that's
so,
scoodlet, isn't it? That's
sure.
L.
I said let.
Oh, I thought you said scudette. Okay, I'm sorry. Criticizing friend is done criticizing.
So I got this at Loops. When was the last time I was at Loops? I don't know.
A year and a half, 2 years ago?
Yeah, it was definitely before then. I should stop moving around so you can actually see it. So this is a very cool pattern by Lee Meredith, who's also Lethal on Ravelry. And basically it's one of those patterns that is kind of like a worksheet. And so she's written it in all these different sizes. So you just figure out your gauge with the needles that you like your yarn on, and then you can knit it a million times. It does take quite a bit of yarn. I guess you would assume that if you were looking at it, but it takes around 200 and it was on the correct page. Her samples used either 220 yards of brown sheep bulky, 225 yards of Malabrigo chunky held doubled to act as 115 yards of a super bulky, and the rainbowy one is 260 yards of a hand-dyed recycled wool worsted weight. So I am using, because I'm not cool enough to have rainbow yarn in my stash.
That is a lie. It's just not super bulky.
Well, it's not. I could use sock yarn with this though, so that might happen one day. Or I could use sock yarn held doubled. Ooh. But what I do have in the worsted weight in my stash, which will not look crazy when I'm on bus duty outside, is I have Mission Falls 1824 wool. I have 3 of them. They don't make this yarn anymore. It's got like a saga behind it. Yeah. Like they were making it and then they stopped and the company switched hands or something and then they resumed making it and then they stopped again. But it's lovely stuff. If you can find it on a G-Stash or at Goodwill or someplace else, it's lovely, lovely stuff. And it's only 85 yards, but it's super squishy and almost an Aran weight actually. So according to the ball band, 4 inches on size 8 needles is 18 stitches. So I just cast on 25 stitches. And I'm just knitting a little swatch, and I'll put it on like dental floss and measure it, and then I'll rip it back out and start. So the hood starts with like a provisional cast on somewhere, or direction.
In this area.
Yeah. And I will read those directions and go from there. So that is the first thing on my needles. The second thing on my needles. Now, the Desert Vista Dye Work socks that I'm going to write the pattern for, the Afterthought heel socks with the short row shaping, those didn't get touched because I got distracted.
Excuse me, y'all.
And I was watching, like, crazy Miss Something Murder Mysteries, and I when I write a pattern, I have to be focused. I'm not the kind of person who can do other things and write patterns. I wish I was, though. That would be awesome, but I have
like there was going to be less errata if you're actually paying attention when you're
probably
doing things.
That's what editors get paid money for. So this is a sock that I'm knitting out of Handspun that the lovely Jessica, who wants to be Alpha Spinner, spun for me. It is out of Moon Rover fiber in the superwash merino nylon blend. She's got a club, but I just checked because I was thinking about rejoining it. Not that I need fiber. I wouldn't really. I was just looking. And not that I wouldn't because it's like a insulation fortress of fiber and up in the So my fortress of solitude built by fiber.
Yep.
So she has never been in her club. But it's a wonderful club if you do get into it. And this was one of the club colorways. And I am knitting the striped toe-up socks from Knitting Architecture on size 1. That's what these things are. Haya Sharps, which is 2.25 millimeter. I just started increasing. It's got like a gusset heel going on there. So I started increasing for the gusset during the Steelers game, and then I left my parents' house and went home and haven't really touched it since. Womp, 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 womp. That's my sad trombone for this. So, which my coworkers totally picked on me about today at work, but whatever.
Because you have a sad trombone?
Well, because the Steelers lost and the Cowboys won or something.
Oh.
I don't know. I didn't pay attention to any other games that weekend. Well, I know Baltimore obviously won and Indianapolis won. So since he lost, anyway, pretty socks. I love the pattern. Super easy to memorize pattern. Can't wait to get to the gusset. First one should be done probably by next week when we record. That would be awesome. And then I can start on the second. I was gonna, so the skein Jessica sent me, which is absolutely gorgeous, is 500 yards.
Wow. She loves you more than me because mine was like 390. I'm just saying.
It's good to be loved. So, I was going to do like knee socks. I don't know who I'm fooling. I'm not gonna do knee socks. So I'm gonna do my regular socks, and then I might knit preemie hats out of the rest of it because that seems like a very Jessica thing. Girl, you got the cough.
I swear I'm gonna die. I'm really sorry for all the cough noise.
And that is in a bling your string bag. The other doesn't have a bag. Yes, it will once it grows up and becomes a scoodlet. And that's it for me for on my needles. Did you have finished nothing? So I'm gonna go with what's off the needles.
You don't have to sound so gleeful about me finishing nothing, though.
Should I do a little dance? Because there was a period of time, like for 3 months, where I never finished anything, and you finished all the things. Like sweaters were coming out. So, man, I should have used blocking wires. Oh well. So this is Cakewalk Yarns. Yeah, it's Gills Rock out of Cakewalk Yarns HD. I can even see through it. And so I could actually read my show notes. It is in the Heaven colorway. Cakewalk Yarns, I don't know what happened there. She sadly doesn't die anymore. She had gorgeous stuff.
Yeah, I think I haven't chatted with her in a couple months, but she plans to get back to it. There's just been a lot of hubbub with moving and family stuff and all that.
Yeah, I know she moved, so I miss her, and I want her to re-dye her yarn, because this was so much fun to finish.
Cakewalk had some gorgeous stuff.
She definitely, and I'm like hoarding it like my little dragon, trying to hatch it into other little cake eggs. So Gills Rock by Paula Prairie Piper, who is an amazing designer. If you have not checked her out or her podcast, you totally should. Yep. She's wonderful. And she has a retreat that's going on in March, and you should totally mail out your deposit like today if you want to go, because I know a lot of people are. And her retreats are tons of fun. So this was one of her patterns, and I started this. This is part of my owl. So if this is your first time watching the show, I am involved in the Harry Potter Knit and Crochet House Cup, which is a group on Ravelry, and all of us are insane, and we do lots of crafting. And so if you plan on doing a big project that spans over 3 months versus 1 month or 2 months, you declare it as an owl, and there's categories, and the category that I'm doing this time is detention. They offer it once a year where you can finish up all these, and a lot of people use it for failed owls, like they failed, so they're going to finish stuff up. Mine was approved with 8 projects, and then I realized I made a horrible mistake and miscalculated where I was on a pattern and had a lot less to do. So now it has 9 projects. I know.
You can do it, though. They're all started. You can totally do it.
2 are sweaters, which is a little bit more... But I'll get there. So Gills Rock was part of that. It had around 40 grams left to go on it. And so that got knit on, started on Friday, finished on Saturday, blocked on Sunday. I should have used wires, though, because you can see I gave it little points, and it's not supposed to have points. But that's okay. I can always reblock it.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it.
It is a very cool, it's got stockinette at the top, which goes into this cool ribbed pattern, like an offset rib pattern. And I added a couple extra repeats of that, and then also added a couple extra rows of garter at the bottom. 1 extra row of garter at the bottom. To make it use up all the yarn, basically. So I love it. It's around 70 inches wide and 20 inches deep, and it is probably going to go to my grandmother, although it does look, I like it with the blue. It's a nice neutral color. We'll see. So that is what I finished. There is a project page for it on Ravelry, and when I have in progress pictures, but I'll put up finished pictures as soon as I take them. And that was 420 yards that I used altogether. The pattern calls for Quince & Company 2 skeins of, what's this one? Finch, maybe? Yeah. Look, I have Finch right here. So 2 skeins of this, which is an American-made wool. I think they're from Maine, I believe. And Pam Allen does a lot. She's like their creative director type person. That was a lot of talking for very little information. Spinning. I've been spinning at least 15 minutes every day as part of an Instagram, Spin 15 and 15. And also there's a Ravelry group, Spin 365. And I've just decided that I'm not plying till I run out of bobbins. Or it's like the end of the month, which...
I love the plying. That's my favorite part.
I like plying too, but I'm enjoying the spinning. I'm going to roll with the spinning. Also, I have on my mini spinner right now, I have the lace flyer on it. And it takes like 2 seconds to convert it to the other flyer. Mm. That's 2 seconds too long. So what I spun this week, I had already finished one of these.
Are you trying to hang up on me again?
Do I want to turn on carrot browsing? I don't even know what that is. Oh, that was very frightening for everyone. Okay, let me see if I can do it again. Not that, but hold. This is, I finished 2 ounces of Hello Yarn in the Slumber colorway, which was part of the September club. It is a 75%, no, it's more than that. It's like an 85% Polworth,
yeah.
15% silk blend. It's a Tussa silk blend. It's really pretty and shiny. I didn't spin it as thin as I could have because I'm lazy. And it's pretty and I wanted it done. And it's shimmery and gorgeous. And I'm not certain about that peach yet, but it's growing on me a little bit.
I like it. I think it works with the other colors.
I do too. I really love the olive that's in there. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I finished is Stop Following Me. Which is the best coloring name ever. It is Squish Fiber Arts. This was spun on the Lendrum. So that the Silk Polworth blend was spun on the mini spinner lace flyer. This was spun. I've got so many overspun parts. That's what happens when I try to spin thick on purpose. This was spun on the Lendrum, and it is a superwash merino blend. It is part of a spin that I started last year for the Less is More sweater.
Oh, yeah.
So I finished like the first 2 bobbins of that, and then over the summer I finished another 2 bobbins of that. So this is bobbin 5, and I have bobbin 6, which is of this on the wheel right now. I have 10 bobbins for my Lendrum, and I was so tempted to order. I need 12, and I'm like, I could order 2 more Acre Works, and then I was like, that is ridiculous.
That is a little bit ridiculous.
Just ply some. So, or I could just use my woolly winder. So, because I've got 3 bobbins for that. So, I spun all these, and I'm working on the second. These are thicker because I'm trying to reach like a DK worsted finished weight. And then yesterday on the mini spinner, because those 2 bobbins were off, I have like 3 Acre Works lace bobbins. And so I was like, I want to try those out. So I pulled out some wool pierogi, Rolka, which is a fancy name, her name for, what am I trying to say? Not Punis.
Rolags?
Rolags, thank you. Wool pierogi does all like Polish, like food terms, so like pierogis. Anyway, so this is Auntie La is number 2 because when Nick and I were hanging out this summer, Nick's always number 1.
Oh, well, yes, naturally.
And I'm number 2. I don't know what Becca is. There's a Muppet song called "I'm Number 1, You're Number 2" from Muppets Most Wanted, so that's where that comes from. We'd sing it to each other.
It's got Ricky Gervais in it, right?
Yes, it's hilarious. There's knitting
in YouTube clip. Yeah.
The knitting in it's just hilarious. So evil Kermit, because there's a good Kermit and an evil Kermit. An evil Kermit knits when he gets stressed.
That's a good way to relieve stress.
That makes me giggle. So these are wool pierogi, and I'm loving spinning it. She always does a great job with her fiber prep. I think she has an update coming up maybe on the 7th. What's today, the 5th? So yes. There's probably stuff in her shop right now, and there'll be even more stuff. On the 7th, she's doing a Distaff Day update, I believe.
She does a lot of really conceptual bats. Like, there's thought behind the color combination. She does a really good job.
There's lots of thought behind, like, that's 4 or 5 different shades of purple. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to apply that with a natural gray, I'm thinking.
That'll be cool.
That's the plan. So,
stretch it and get some good yardage.
Royal eggs are a naturally woolen style prep, so it's a little bit fuzzy, which is perfect. And I have some natural gray Romney that I washed up that I might use. We'll see. I also have new hand cards. Do you want to see my new hand cards?
Nothing would make me happier.
So, this is a case my mom made me for my new hand cards.
She made me one of those at SSK.
Yeah, she gave it to me at SSK, and I didn't have big hand cards. But now I do. So, Mama Linneman exclusive case. So, there's a group on Ravelry that just deals with used equipment sales. And someone was destashing their never before used curved hand cards. So they're Luettes. So I got a steal on them. And since I didn't have, these are fine hand cards. So fine hand cards are meant for the finer wools. They do a super fine that's meant for cotton, I believe. And then they also do like a medium. So that's pretty cool. Oh, there's a pocket. Did you know there's a pocket in here too?
I did not.
That Mama Linneman, she's so fancy. It's a good thing I keep her around. So there's a little pocket in there too. See, Mom needs to make stuff like this. And there's a little handle.
In all of her spare time.
Yeah, when she's not spoiling the grandchildren. So that's new to me equipment that came into the house that I got like in December and arrived a couple weeks ago. So that made me super excited. So those are my first adult hand cards.
You're so fancy.
I am fancy. So that's it for spinning. We have a book review.
We do. This was sent to us by the lovely folks over at Interweave. No Sew Knits. It's by Kristen TenDyke. This is her second book.
Yep, the first one, I'll show you the picture, was Finish Free Knits. Looks like that. So she is kind of an expert on the subject of sweaters that are seamless, but they have much different ways of construction. They're not like all top-down raglans. There's bunches of different things.
So she talks about in the introduction that the most common question that she gets when she was doing book signings for her first book was, which sweater is the easiest? So I'm guessing there's a large contingent of knitters out there who have knit for years and years but have never attempted a sweater.
Or they did sweaters a long time ago and they haven't done one since the 80s and want to get back into it. That's Eloise, by the way.
That's cool.
I don't know that she wants to get back into it, but I'm forcing her back. I'm like, hold that hands, dragging her back in.
So all the knits in this book are designed to be easy. So they're not designed to be intricately complicated or just, you know, museum antique pieces. They're designed to be easy and understandable and doable.
And I like how the layout of this book, she starts with the easiest in the beginning, and then in the beginning of each chapter is also the easiest. So it's progressive. It's like little baby steps.
So you want me to read you my 2 favorite sentences in this entire book?
Sure.
I'm totally going to.
Yay!
She says, to the best of my ability, I kept the pattern instructions simple and straightforward. Whenever possible, I avoided terms such as at the same time. Thank you. So when there's two things going on at once, she writes it clearly in the instructions, so you don't have to keep track of two separate things, whether you're doing bust increases and casting on additional stitches for the arm or whatever. It's clearly defined in the pattern. That's my favorite 2 sentences in this whole book.
So she starts with the basics, and there are 4 different types of sweater construction in the basics. The very first is the heroic vest, which is out of, I want to say, a bulky.
Yeah, it is a bulky.
Okay. So a chunky weight bulky. It's shown in O Wool Legacy bulky. And great size range. Sizes from 29.5 all the way up to 54.25. In the very corner, at the beginning of each, it tells you the techniques that you need to know going in. For this one, it's circular knitting, seamless pocket, picking up stitches through needle bind off, using a stitch holder or waist yarn, and increases and decreases in pattern. It's got that cute little pocket.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about pockets later on in the book, but she really does do a very clear job. So this is the second pattern. It's the dreamy pullover.
That's my favorite in the entire book, I think.
It's very simple, but it's very classic. It's something that's never going to go out of style. It's knit in a worsted weight. And another thing I really like about this book is that when she lists the yarn, she says, this is the weight that you need. She doesn't say, you need this yarn. She says, this is the weight that you need. We used this yarn, but you could use any worsted weight yarn that got you the gauge.
Yep.
So, also, the sizing in this book is pretty good. It usually goes from somewhere in the...
stupendous, yeah.
It usually goes from the 30 to 32 inch chest all the way up to between 57 and 60 inches. Some go a little higher than that. So I'm pleased, very pleased with the size range in the book.
Really like that. And like I said, that's my favorite thing in the book. Every single, like, anytime she has something to kind of like teach you or instruct you on, it's very clearly stated, like, why would you use edging? And it tells you exactly why. So I feel like this is one of those books that's perfect for someone who wants to revisit sweater knitting, is just getting into sweater knitting. And if you're an experienced sweater knitter, if there's some patterns in there or a technique, like I've never knit a sideways sweater, that will be a good way for me to learn that technique. Speaking of side-to-side sweaters, there you go.
And so if you look at I really enjoy also the fact that the schematics are shown in the way that the sweater is knit. So this is shown sideways to tell you the sweater is knit sideways. The ones that are bottom up are shown right side up. The ones that are top down are shown upside down to show you that you start at the collar and then work your way up.
And this is the wholesome coat, and it's sized from 33.5 all the way up to 60 inch. It kind of tells you, like, it tells you what size is being shown. It doesn't give you ease, but you can kind of figure out going from there. And that's out of a chunky or bulky weight. And Manos de Uruguay Wool Classica is what they used for that in size 8 needles. So even though they're saying chunky, size 8 needles.
Yeah, I mean, you always want to do gauge swatch to make sure.
Yep.
I actually really like the unconditional cardigan, even though there's nothing just really special about it. It's knit with garter stitch for the body because you're knitting the body flat, and then stockinette stitch for the sleeves because you're knitting those in the round, and with a simple, accent color for the edging. And it's nothing that I think would be like a showpiece or anything, but it's a very practical, wearable sweater.
And the thing that I love, go ahead, you finish up.
I was just going to say the sizing on this one is from 30 to 52 3/4 inches.
What I love about this one is there's a section about seamless set-in sleeve caps that go along with this that tells you exactly everything that you need to know for any sweater that you want to do a seamless set-in sleeve cap on, with color charts, and it's just a really, really good resource if that's something you're looking for.
Like Laura said, so it'll tell you, okay, when you get to the shoulders, do XYZ for, whichever shoulder. But it also gives you a 2-page spread about set-in sleeves and the shoulders. And if you want a narrow sleeve, do it this way. If you want a wider sleeve cap, do it this way. That you, like Laura said, again, you can apply it to any sweater, not just the sweaters in this book.
So the second section has 6 sweaters, and all of them have interchangeable stitch patterns. So they all use a multiple of 6. So with any of the sweaters, you can change out the stitch pattern and make it work. There's also a section on adjusting sleeve length to fit you, which I'm going to look at when I do my Washington square cardigan, because I want to make sure my sleeves are, because I kind of have monkey arms. My favorite piece from this section is the tender hoodie, because I kind of love some hoodies, in case y'all didn't realize. And I love me some pocketses. So those two things combined, this goes from a 29 3/4 size all the way up to a 52.5. It's in a worsted weight. It's in Quince & Company Lark. And it just looks like a super cozy, hanging out around the house weekend sweater. She goes into adding a hood to any sweater, which is a wonderful resource. So this book is not just patterns. Like, I feel like a lot of times we review a book and it's just the patterns. This has a lot of resources that you can use in other places.
And I think it's done in a digestible way. So sometimes when you get a technique book and it's, 200 pages of information, that's wonderful, but it's hard to absorb all that information without some sort of visual break. Whereas in this book, you get a pattern, something pretty to look at, some generalized instructions, and then bam, now you know everything you ever need to know about adding a hood to a sweater, because you've got this 2-page spread on it.
And the next little hoodie has how to add seamless pockets to any sweater.
Which is definitely something that I see as invaluable, because there's more than one sweater that I've knit that I wish had pockets, and now I can read this, 2-page spread that tells me how I can add pockets to anything I want to make in the future.
The third section is all about lace. My favorite thing from here is the Sensual Open Cardigan, which is out of a worsted weight, Quince & Company Owl, which is an alpaca blend yarn, which I think is super cute. It goes from a 32 all the way up to a 54 3/4. It's just a nice kind of business casual sweater. Everything's knit separately from the bottom up and then joined at it's like a yoke style sweater with set-in sleeve shaping. So I really like that one.
I like the Sensible cardigan. I'm not certain how it would look on someone as large as me, but it is sized from 29-inch chest to 59.25-inch chest.
That's this one.
Yep. It is a short sleeve, very simple but fine sweater.
Now, you say that, but the sweater that I knit for me that I gave you is a very similar style to that, and it looks fabulous on you.
Yeah, that's true.
So you Zolda Teague?
The blue one. I can't remember what it's called. Yeah. And again, this one is knit from the neck down, so it shows you that in the pattern instructions that you're going to start at the neck and work your way up. Schematics are beautifully done, with lots of measurements for every single section of the sweater.
Nice clear charts. Just a good overall.
I don't know if this is moved into the next section or not. I didn't mark off each section, but this is the Wonder Tank. And I have never really knit anything to be worn in the summer, but this is actually a possibility. This one is sized from 29 3/4 to 57.25.
I like that one.
It is a fingering weight tank top that you would wear over something, clearly, but something that I see as containing some forethought are the straps. They are not dinky decorative straps. They are actually straps that would hide the camisole or bra straps that you would have to wear underneath it. And it's in a fingering weight, so it would be very fine, light thing that you could wear and still show off some knitting in the summertime.
And that has faux side seams in it, and she has a whole section about faux side seams. And there's a section also in here about bust darts with short rows, so short row shaping bust darts. Just an overall good book, I feel like.
Yeah, I think it gives you a really great stepping stone to, even more complicated and beautiful sweaters. And there's lots of little thoughtful touches, like in this Paradise cardigan with simple rib and tiny bit of cabling at the top, which I was thinking, that's okay. And then she shows you the back, and there's this beautiful cable. There's a lot of thought put into the pieces in the book, which is a nice thing. And we only showed you maybe half the patterns. There's 20 patterns in the book.
Yep, all sweater patterns.
This is by Kristen TenDyke, published by Interweave. It retails for $25.99 in the U.S. for a paperback copy. And we just want to say thank you to Interweave. This is definitely something I can see myself knitting out of.
It's actually funny. So my knitting club now meets here. My knitting group.
Your two friends.
My two friends in the world since Leslie abandoned me. That's not true. There's 3 of us. So we've slowly decreased in numbers over the years, and now we're down to 3 or 4 who come regularly. So we just decided, rather than spend money at a restaurant, to meet at my house. And so anytime a new book arrives, it gets put on my little end table type thing
and passed around.
And this one and rustic modern knits. Yeah, there you go. Came at the same time, and Eloise immediately ordered them, I think.
Really?
So it's always good when you can pass along. Curl's got that way too. There's a lot of enabling that goes on at my knit night. It's a lot of borrowing of books is offered as well.
I wish I was at your knit night.
You can't be.
No,
you're not invited.
No love for me.
Eloise would invite you. You still have a key to my house, so it's not like I can keep you out.
It's at Carol's. I left it because I wasn't sure if you needed it back. So
okay. Whatever. We have a question to answer. This is from Polly81. Mm-hmm. Paul, what's the most amount of singles that you've plied together for one yarn? Mine is 3 ply. Why ply more than 3 singles together? So
I would say for many, I guess it would depend on what you wanted. It could be in order to blend colors together. If you were doing sort of a gradient, if you had 3 of one color and 1 of another and you wanted to make it a 4 ply. Also, the more plies you add, the rounder the yarn tends to be, at least in my very limited experience with plying.
Yeah. Stronger it tends to be as well. So what's the most that you've ever plied together?
I've 4 ply. I've done a standard 4 ply and then a chain ply. So I've done
like a cable
ply. There you go. Yes, where there's 2 sets of 2 plies and then they're plied together. And then I've also done a regular 4 ply.
One of the groups on Ravelry, I think it was Southern Cross, did a really interesting where it was like crazy plying. Mm-hmm. And they had people who 2 plied and then Navajo plied that 2 ply, which I thought was really interesting. Yeah. Like Leslie was saying, it adds strength. But it also, if you have a bunch of skinny singles that you're like, instead of knitting socks with that, I've changed my mind. I want to knit like a bulky hat, a scoodlet, let's say. Then you might want to ply more together to get that thicker, stronger thing. A lot of sock yarns now are going to like 9-10 plies for strength. And if 1 ply breaks, it's not going to wear through the entire sock. But so it does give you strength in that way. Did you notice that I totally picked up my knitting and almost knit the same way? And I've been knitting since I was 8.
I can't see your hands, sweetheart, so no. I mean, I guess it would just depend on what you want. I am not an alpha spinner, so I spin recreationally. And
I will tell you, the Sarah Anderson book is a wonderful book.
It is, and it will give you lots of good reasons to ply crazy things. I don't have it sitting right here. I will show you. But I would just say to play with it. I mean, the more singles that you have plied, the rounder the yarn will be. I'm sure at some point there's like
4 is like the cutoff on that. Like
Yeah. Oh.
it stays as round as a 4-ply regardless, as if you go over 4.
Basically, what I'm trying to say is I don't know. Laura probably knows better than me. I don't know.
But the Sarah Anderson book is a great resource. I've only done a 3-ply, so I'm a terrible person to ask. But that book is on my I should work my way through this one day list because it's absolutely fabulous. What are you reading, Leslie?
I've read a few things. So I'm still listening to Blood Song, which is the Shadow of the Raven series. I read several books this week. One was Archer's Voice, which is kind of a romance. It was all right. All these are linked in the show notes. Cinder, which is a young adult. I'm probably the last one who's heard of it.
Cyborg Cinderella story.
Yeah. It was okay. It's nothing special. I mean, I liked it, but I probably won't read the rest of the series. I tried to read The Thought Readers, but the protagonist was a young male in his early 20s who knew everything in the world.
And you have one of those that lives with you.
Seriously. It
Wow.
was super irritating. You know, he's a stockbroker by trade, but when he gets into a conversation about quantum physics, he knows everything, and it's just unrealistic, and it was irritating. So I gave that one up.
It's not a 3-dimensional character.
No. And I started Division of the Marked last night, which is sort of kind of science fiction post-apocalyptic. I'm probably about halfway through it. It's good so far. So, as you can see, I read a lot.
And I've not read a whole ton this week. I, at school, am reading Baseball Crazy, which is a collection of short stories. I am on the lookout for short stories that fall into the following 3 central questions, which is sports, which is really a theme. It's not a central question. I'm sure there's a central question that they have that goes with it that I'm just not aware of. Overcoming obstacles, and what's the third? The power of words, the power of language. So I found nonfiction articles that kind of go with all those themes, and now I'm looking for fiction pieces for work, because that's what I do. So I am reading Baseball Crazy, looking for sports ones. I found one that was pretty good. The problem, like, these are being used in the classroom, so a lot of times, like, there's a good one, and then they say damn, and I'm like, oh.
We can't say damn in Mississippi schools. It is not allowed.
Well, it's not the saying of the word, because my kids say it all the time. It's the teaching of a piece that's got it in it.
Right.
For 6th grade especially, because 6th grade's like, you know, because Kobe's 6th grade. They're 11 and 12. So you kind of have to think about stuff that way. I don't know. I'm being pretty awesome. Hey, guess what I'm not teaching anymore? Because we hired a new teacher. Sex ed.
Woohoo!
So excited. I threw like a little party when I found out today.
That is pretty awesome, because not that sex ed is necessarily a terrible thing to teach, but Mississippi is an abstinence-only school for it. So,
which is fine, but it's all scripted, and I could have done it because I can teach anything, but I was not excited about it.
I think that your kids probably would have made it a goal to make you blush or cry.
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know how good that would have worked out for them, and it's all, like, it would be all girls with me, so it's not a big...
They segregate to teach sex ed.
Yes. So, but now I'm not doing it, so that makes me excited. It's the little things that... we didn't have a female health teacher, so I was going to have to help out, which is fine. But now we do.
It's the little things.
It really is. Hiring a new teacher, and she knew, so she's a health teacher, and she's teaching speech, and she knows what Lexile level was, and I was like, yay! Which is reading levels, essentially.
I don't know what that is, but okay.
So, like, it's because the person who's in that position before her had been teaching, like, 44 years. So, and he retired over the break. But I'm excited. I like new people that are awesome. So, that makes me excited. the little things. So under favorite things, that's one of my favorite things, not having to teach sex ed. What's you have CSM frustrations.
Yes. So, Jasmine of the Knitmore Girls got a circular sock machine, and she ordered it like fall and then got it, I don't know, sometime around Christmas or Thanksgiving or something. And so I joked with her because she told me like a month before it got there. I said, oh, so I'll have time to become awesome and then be over myself by the time that you get yours, right? Because I have a competitive side. And she said, sure, yeah, okay. And humored me. And then I forgot all about CSM because we had Rhinebeck and holidays and all that stuff.
And you've had one for like 2 years, right?
I have. And it's kind of a pain in the butt. So a circular sock machine, the one that I have, is from the early 1900s. Just up until just a couple years ago, they weren't made anymore. And so the one that I have is like all cast iron and steel and weighs like
It's heavy.
a lot. And there's no like modern manual on how it works. There's some YouTube videos out there from some folks that own them and can kind of walk.
There's a lot of, I think Jessa Lou has one.
She does, actually. I've texted her for help before. Jessa Lou is incredibly helpful because she happens to have the exact same model as me.
Oh, okay.
And helped me over a major like speed bump I had this past weekend. But anyhow, the problem with CSMs is that unlike with knitting, if you make a mistake, you can't just tank back. There is no going back. There is cutting everything off of it and starting completely over. There is no going back. There's no way to, because of the mechanism that makes it go around and round and round and round. So for someone who is just learning and doesn't have someone sitting with them to teach, it is kind of a pain in the butt. So you start with this, like, you can
Waist yarn, right?
Yeah, well, this is called a bonnet. It's just a tube, and then I've got it's something that I made, and it's got like every other stitch. It has a little loop, and you hook the loops onto the machine, and then you start feeding it through with waist yarn. Then you do some waist rows, which is like what this is. This is just waist rows that I just cranked around and around and around to get the tension right. And then you have to weight it down. You have to pull it and constantly have pressure on it. Well, the around and the around part is really not that difficult. I've got the around and the around part down. It's the ribbing part that sucks because the ribber is a separate attachment and it goes on top of the around and around part. And basically once you've got it in place and the separate little needles for the ribber, because they're half the size of the regular needles, you can't even see what's happening. Like in the stitching of the sock, you can't see anything at that point.
Annoying.
So I've dropped stitches and like it would get tangled and the ribber plate would hop, and basically it's just really frustrating.
So let me ask you this. You could just do the around and around and around part and then hand knit the ribbing at the top, right?
I could, yes.
But you don't want to.
I feel like I've given up on this thing so many times that I have to keep trying until I figure it out. It's irritating because I lost all of Saturday and part of Sunday trying to figure this out. And the lady who sold it to me is super nice and has answered all of my questions, but she's also like in Montana or somewhere, so she can't just sit right beside me. We may FaceTime or Skype at some point this week to see if she can help, but I really just need to go somewhere and sit down with someone who knows exactly how these machines should work and say, hey, when you do that, you totally screw it up, so stop.
Now, there's a woman who had one of these machines at, she does the Middle Tennessee Fiber Festival every year, and she was telling me she does like 8 socks or whatever, but she'll cut them off after they get almost to the, like the weights get almost to the floor, and then she just moves the weight out. So she still has like 4 socks on there before she cuts one off.
Yeah, there's a tool, it's called a buckle, but it's basically like a flat piece that swivels inside of a frame, and you can move it up and up and up and adjust the weight.
But that way she never takes stuff off of, like, there's never not anything on there. There's always something
Oh, you
on.
mean she like strings waist yarn for later? Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
idea.
in between. That way, like, there's no stop. Like, it's a continuous thing, but there's waist yarn in between.
Yeah. Well, the point of this was for me to say, if you happen to live in the Philly area or anywhere in central or southern Jersey, PM me if you
I think
happen
you
to
can
know
include Delaware in there and Maryland. I mean, those states are kind of close.
anywhere that's within like 75 miles of Atlantic City, New Jersey, and you are willing to meet up with me and show me how this thing works, I would be appreciative and lavish upon you gifts of food and drink and money or whatever. So if you happen to have a CSM and you live near me, please contact me because I need help.
Cool.
So that's also part of the reason I don't have as much knitting, because I did spend a lot of time. And like I said, once you start on this, you can't just think back. You have to start the whole stupid process over. So,
That
not
sounds
that I'm
like
bitter.
lots of fun. Yay.
Sorry, I get a little preachy.
Had I picked out my bin for Spin the Bin last time?
Mostly,
Okay.
yeah. You talked about
So,
mostly.
I have it linked in the show notes. If you are interested in the Spin Your Bin, you can find it there. It is part of the Completely Twisted and Arbitrary Spinning Group.
Yep.
It is a fun project. The Rolex are actually from my bin, so that's my first of my bin projects. But it is lots of fun, and Leslie should do it too.
Nope.
Um,
Not even phased.
Sarah Dienitz is doing it.
Sarah Dienitz makes some beautiful yarn. God, she makes some gorgeous yarn.
We have a giveaway this week. The lovely Agile Knitter was so sweet, and she gave us a copy. So she has this very cool pattern called the Shoe Candy pattern, and she did like the fruit stripe gum pattern before. Yep. And she goes to House of Yarn, which is kind of local to us, and her name's Lee. And I need to cast on this pattern soon. I really, really like it. But she gave us a copy of the pattern to give away. So what I want you to do is I want you to go to our Ravelry group, which is the Knit Girls on Ravelry, and tell us what yarn you would use to make this awesome pattern. It is written for self-striping yarn,
yes,
which is kind of in itself unusual. I think I totally just closed my show notes. No, I didn't. So just go over there and let us know. And one copy of the Shoe Candy pattern is up for grabs over there.
Let's make it 3 copies. I'll throw in one for.
All right, I'll throw in one too. So 3 copies altogether.
Yep.
Because did you see how Leslie said, let's make it 3? I'll throw in one. And Lee's donating one.
Well,
you're a jerk.
I know it's a good pattern because Vicky with no E knit it and recommended it to me. So.
Oh really? Did she knit that one or fruit stripe?
Well, she's knit both of them, I think, but she was talking about the Shoe Candy one. I think she was a tester or something.
Oh, fun. So just let us know what yarn you would use. We will get 3 copies of. Lee will give one, Leslie will give one, and I will give one. It's like 3 L's all over again.
Yep.
If you are in the Memphis area or can get to Memphis, Sharon Draper is coming, who is one of my all-time favorite authors. She is coming to booksellers at Laurawood at the end of January. I can pull up the exact date. I'll put it in the show notes. She is an absolutely fabulous YA author. She's originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and was a teacher and just retired from teaching, which she probably, I can't believe, like, she's still teaching because she sold, like, millions of copies of books.
Yeah, I would be out.
She wrote a really, really awesome book called Out of My Mind a couple of years ago. She does a lot of realistic fiction, like more urban situations, although Out of My Mind was not one of those. She also has some historical fiction. She is just absolutely fabulous. I've met her before. I'm going to this event, but if you are at all interested in any of that, or if you're local to Memphis, I highly recommend her. You do have to pre-order tickets, but they're free. And booksellers at Laurawood, if you're familiar with Memphis at all, used to be Davis Kid. It's a wonderful, it's like an experience to go there.
They have a great restaurant. Yeah.
That It's probably one of my favorite places to eat in Memphis because they've got this tomato blue cheese soup, which is to die for.
Everything is very fresh. It's all very well
Yeah,
made.
and they also like change cookbook. Like they actually use cookbooks that are available at the store, and they tell you where the recipes are coming from, which is kind of fun. And they change up their cookbooks. It's definitely an experience if you're in the Memphis area. I would highly recommend it. The thing that I was adding to the show notes when I hung up on Leslie was the Alice cow. So the Alice and Along is over. I totally just got out of Ravelry, and we had some entries, and we are going to pick from, and like this contest had the best odds I think of any contest that was in like the last 10 years. Not 10 years, that's an exaggeration. Are we coming up on 5 years this year?
We are almost complete with 5 years, yes.
Oh my goodness. So it's been a while since we've only had 10 people doing it along, which is fine. I'm all about like, and we didn't publicize it as well as we could have, so that's probably more on us than anything else. But the Alice shawl is a wonderful shawl. The proceeds go to support the niece of one of our dear friends. Mm-hmm. So I have a prize out of my stash, which is Sweet Georgia Yarns.
Ooh.
And the Tough Love sock.
Ooh, that's a pretty color.
In a bright orange Dutch colorway that I picked up to do color work with, but I don't know. I'm going to give it away because it's been sitting in my stash a long time and has not gotten used, and it's too pretty to sit in my stash any longer. And I love Sweet Georgia. I hoard her yarns, so I have quite a bit, so I should give this up to one of you. So numbers 2 through 11.
Okay. So, I haven't hit the button yet, but I will hit the button. The result is 11.
Oh, fun! That is Emeier, Emir, and has some linen that she got from the yarn bus, which means she is from Nashville.
That's awesome.
It's really pretty. It's a variegated, like, black and green. Yep, she's totally from Jackson, Tennessee. So, Erin, if you will send me a PM, I will get this your way. Or, yeah, I'll send it your way. She's also in the Harry Potter Knit and Crochet House Cup.
Total favoritism.
Yep, and the House of Yarn group. She's in, like, 3 of the...
You're in adjunct groups.
She's in Knit Girls, Knit More Girls. No, it's 4. Harry Potter Knit and Crochet, and then House of Yarn. Of her 7 groups, we share 4. It's like we're soulmates.
Okay, then.
So ridiculous. I think that's it for me this week. Did you have anything else that you needed to talk about?
No. We're scheming and planning some SSK stuff, and it's lots of fun. We had a weird issue with some of our...
This is Leslie's favorite thing to talk about.
So the way that I usually process SSK payments is they all go to a P.O. box. I pick them up on the way to work, like once a week, and then I go to work and I process them. So I'll record them in a spreadsheet that says, okay, John Smith sent me a check for $100 and it's number 123. And it's a good thing I keep that record because there was a batch of checks. I usually do an ATM deposit because it emails me a copy of all the checks. So if there's ever a question, I can go back and pull up an email and say, oh, okay, yeah, I recorded it wrong. It was actually this amount. And you can do like 30 at a time. You just put them all in, stacked nice and neat. It reads them. It sends you an email. Well, that's the theory. But at the end of November, I deposited several batches. And on the last batch, the machine just stopped. It was just done. It said, yeah, I'm overworked. I'm done. It shut itself down. And it's like, can't take any more deposits. There's been a jam. We'll contact you once the technician has come out. I went in and talked to the teller, and she's like, yeah, it'll probably take a day or so. Technician will come out. They'll email you a copy of everything and, credit your account. And I said, okay, that's fine. Well, a few days went by, nothing happened, so I called. They put in an inquiry. Anyway, my account was credited a very generic amount with no information about, from what checks it came from. They just assumed, I don't know. They just assumed I would take this amount for granted. And it was incorrect.
By a lot.
By a lot, by several $1,000s. And it has taken me 6 weeks and 7 phone calls and 2 managers.
Leslie loves being on the phone.
So much, so very much. Until I finally got an answer. The answer included 7 check numbers with 30-something check numbers missing, and them just saying, they're just lost. Those checks are lost. They're just gone forever into the abyss of lost checks. So I've contacted everybody that was affected, all the SSK people that were affected, to tell them exactly what happened and make sure that it doesn't show as cash on their end because it shouldn't, and yada, yada, yada. Basically, it's just been a lot of phone tag and me being unhappy with why these people's checks aren't being cashed. And I feel like I've been complaining, and I'm not complaining. I don't like it when the money that I have recorded isn't the money that's there. I'm not this careful at all about my personal finances. At all.
But SSK stuff,
but
we're
SSK
like
stuff,
super
it's
able
like,
about.
yeah, we're very particular about making sure everything is exactly what it needs to be. So, anyway, now that I'm done complaining, I apologize for dumping that on you guys. But you're such good listeners.
Because you have no choice.
You
It's
really
feel like
don't.
you've been held hostage at this point.
So we're at about an hour. So I think
Yeah.
we're done. And we will
Awesome.
see you next Monday. And have a great week.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.